They run around screaming, we love Satan, we wanna eat babies. I have them on video. So Chick-fil-A opened a location in Toronto. Thousands of Palestinian refugees in Lebanon think they have a right to live in Canada. But what are we discussing? Dead fucking babies. So 4 years ago, a group called Center for Medical Progress went undercover into Planned Parenthood facilities, conferences, and expos, and took a whole bunch of footage. In my opinion, pretty damning. And now, the people who went undercover are at preliminary hearings to determine whether or not they should be tried criminally for their invasion of privacy. Meanwhile, the footage seems to show, the footage alleges, that Planned Parenthood is selling human fetal tissue, also called baby parts, for profit. It's like, come on, real world. How many times are we going to have to prove Alex Jones right?
Enough of these people. They're a bunch of Christian murderers, homeland, giant death factories, keeping babies alive, and selling their body parts. What more do you need to know about these people?
So first, it's actually legal to do stem cell research in most states. I don't think all states, but most of them. And other kinds of research on human fetal tissue baby parts. Where the U.S. government draws the line is this. It shall be unlawful for any person to knowingly acquire, receive, or otherwise transfer any human fetal tissue for valuable consideration if the transfer affects interstate commerce. Affecting interstate commerce basically means if the possibility exists to sell something across state lines, this applies. So if an abortion facility in Texas means to move human fetal tissue baby parts to a research facility in California, this applies. And valuable consideration means any kind of benefit. Obviously, there are costs to keeping something so delicate like baby parts in such a way that they're still useful to a researcher. So if it takes 2 days for the researcher or their procurement company to come collect this, you can recoup your costs. What you can't do is make a profit. So that's the state of that. Where the investigators really excelled was not just getting Planned Parenthood associates to discuss demand for specimens and cost per specimen, and even one of them described how she managed to hide the income value in their paperwork so it doesn't show up as a payment for specimens. What they really did beautifully was get people to describe how a practitioner could alter their technique in such a way as to save as much tissue as possible, and end up basically describing what is federally banned in the US as a partial birth abortion. And the way they get around it is the practitioner, upon first meeting a person who's trying to get an abortion, simply makes a statement of intent. Apparently, on some of the forms, it's just a check on a box that says, I intend to do the D&E, which is, I believe it stands for dislocation and evacuation. Just imagine what that is for a second. And then come the actual procedure, they just don't do it. And for the most part, nobody asks. And if anybody does, they can just say, oh, well, something came up and I had to do it this way. And that's particularly disturbing because what it suggests is that the practitioners are altering their technique during a procedure to gain the monetary benefit, which is fucking gross, first off, but also illegal. So my legal from earlier actually came from this law blog, where the lawyer writing this claims that Planned Parenthood did nothing wrong. Not suggesting no money changed hands, suggesting that it was all within reason because it wasn't valuable consideration based on this. That we discussed this earlier too. The term valuable consideration does not include reasonable payments associated with the transportation, implantation, processing, preservation, quality control, or storage of human fetal tissue. That's almost understandable, if gross. He says that last clause is essential. The word reasonable is important since payments that are reasonable are not treated as valuable consideration and thus not violating the statute. There's no profit. It's just compensation for costs. I have seen no legal authority suggesting the $30 to $100 range in the video falls outside the realm of reasonable payments. Now, that's only one part of the video, and also he doesn't define what $30 to $100 is for. Nothing in the law specifies how much is reasonable. There is no charge master or compendium of fees. Well, apparently, he didn't see this part of the video.
What compensation is?
And are we agreed that $100 would keep you happy?
Well, let me agree to find out from other affiliates in California what they're getting. And if they're getting substantially more, then we can discuss it again.
Yeah.
I'm going to link to all of these videos so you know that I'm not taking anything out of context here. But when she says if other facilities are getting substantially more and we can discuss it then, she's no longer talking about what the cost is to her clinic. She's talking about a market price. And a market price is a valuable consideration. So this lawyer is off his fucking rocker, or he just didn't see enough of this. This is getting pretty gross. I'm sorry. Hold on. So $30 to $100. For what? What do you get for your $30 to $100? And just for the record, the going rate's more like $100. If you watch enough of the videos, and I don't think the lawyer did, because he doesn't seem to understand exactly what's happening, they're not referring to a fetus being kept and, the compensation for the facility's costs is $100. The jargon is specimen. $100 per specimen. Now, what is a specimen? Well, is it a fetus? No. They actually have a particular jargon for a fetus. They refer to each fetus as a case. Like, a doctor has a patient. The patient wants an abortion. So that is their abortion case. And the fetus is a case. Each specimen is a single part of a baby. A liver, a heart, a spinal cord, a brain, kidneys. So the more you alter your technique to maintain as much tissue as possible, the more specimens you get from each case. So basically, each individual baby can net the facility hundreds, if not thousands of dollars if removed intact. And this is getting really fucking gross, pardon me. So if all of this is true, how has Planned Parenthood Federation of America managed to continue operating for so long, considering that allegations and investigations have gone back as far as the year 2000? Connie Chung, 60 Minutes. And they are currently under ongoing investigation by both the FBI and the Justice Department. Well, they act like a franchise. They've managed to insulate themselves. The nonprofit umbrella company basically franchises their name to private nonprofits. And if any one of them is caught selling baby parts for profit, oh, well, that's them. That's the one group, and they're not supposed to do that. That's horrific. That's disgusting. And actually, there's someone in an interview, Muckety Muck, with 60 Minutes, saying basically that. But what the investigators caught was seemingly the current president and CEO of the PPFA, Cecile Richards, admitting that she connected the investigators with Deborah Nucatola, who is the Senior Director of Medical Services at PPFA, who explains to them cost per specimen and how they altered the techniques and seemingly perform what is a partial birth abortion, federally banned, so that they can procure the materials that they claim to need and that the companies can profit. And even in some of these videos, there is someone saying, I don't know why we're not allowed to do this. Right? Why every other corporation is allowed to make profits off their materials? Well, because your materials are human beings. And that's why they're not allowed to incentivize it, because it creates a situation in which not only do people at these facilities have no reason to maybe suggest other alternatives to abortion, but actually incentivizes them to not only encourage abortions, but maybe to even pressure people into it. Now, my man, one of my favorite YouTubers, Duck HK, he talked about this and he circled around it. He couldn't find it. I think this is what he was looking for. Wherever money has the possibility of being a motivating factor, it is. And that's why this is disgusting, because they're motivating abortion for many people, the murder of human babies. And that just ain't right. It's just fucking gross. Now, I don't normally do trigger warnings, but if you follow the links that I'm leaving, one of them will have multiple videos embedded, and if you watch them, you're gonna come across what is in fact a human baby fully dissected and laid out in what appears to be little more than a Pyrex cooking dish. So, heads up. And let's carry that trigger warning to right here, where I try to lighten the mood a little bit, because this has been pretty bad, with my dark-ass humor. So, what's funnier than a dead baby? A dead baby in a clown suit. How many babies does it take to shingle a roof? Depends how thin you slice them. How do you get a baby into a mason jar? Blender. How do you get it out again? Nachos. Alright, I'm done. Go home. Good night, guys.
She sleeps in the same room with that creepy weird woman whose mother wears a hood over her head.
Relevant links to shit I said in the description. Maybe. I'm a twin. Like, subscribe, or don't. It's a free country. At least it used to be.
Obama and Hillary.